Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the second day of Christmas at United Church of Gainesville, also known to some of you as Boxing Day. All of you are welcome here. Each of you are welcome here. All of each of you are welcome here in this sacred time and space, or wherever your sacred time and space is, if you happen to be watching the recording of this. There's a tradition here at United Church of Gainesville where the first Sunday after Christmas, we give our pastors that day off after the busy season. As a retired pastor, I think that's awesome. As a retired pastor, I am also jealous. It's just the way it is, but we have done that because we care to take care of our pastors. So the Board of Parish Ministry this morning has put together a service for you this second day of Christmas that we hope will be uplifting, that we hope will touch your heart in different ways. Some things may be amusing, some things may pull at your heartstrings, but we hope that you experience the presence of the Holy on this day. We're missing our chair of our group who is on the road, Hannah Norton, this morning. We have some changes that we have had to make due to COVID that you'll understand as we go through the service that some of our storytellers have changed and altered a little bit. A couple of quick announcements. There may be news coming to you later in the week about changes about worship in the future or other gatherings. As COVID, as this Omicron expands, we need to prepare for whatever comes next. So please do read whatever comes your way. I would also suggest to you that it's the end of the year. You've got just a few more days if you want to make an extra contribution to the church, if you want to close out the tax year or finish your contributions or get a head start on next year. The church would be glad to receive your gifts. There's a thing we do around here. We ask for birthdays. I have always been unwilling to do the children's moment because usually the storyteller has to handle birthdays, and I can't remember more than 3 names. The bulletin has me doing this. So I'm hoping there aren't more than 3 of you having a birthday, but I know there's at least 1 having a birthday this week. So if you're having a birthday this week, Nell, that's my wife, would you stand? Anyone else say, another birthday? Shout your name. Oh, you got 2. Okay, well. Lori. Jerry, did you stand up?
I'm just teasing you.
You're trying to get it to 4 and I'll get all screwed up. And Scott. All right. Nell, Scott, Laura. And Pam. This few people and we've crossed my border. This is scary. Nell, Scott, Pam, Laura. We ready to sing? I'm going to step away from the microphone. on Christmas Eve. After this was well planned, so we thought, a number of things began to happen. Some of our folks had to withdraw from the service, and the call to worship that I had chosen for this moment was the benediction at the Christmas Eve service. I decided it's still a good idea to come full circle. The work of Christmas by Howard Thurman is a powerful statement. When the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flocks, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to teach the nations, to bring Christ to all, to make music in the heart. This, my friends, is the work of Christmas. Betsy. Invite the children to come up and gather around for a story.
Good morning. Oh, this isn't on. Is this on? Okay. This is a favorite story of mine. This is called Emma's Christmas, and it's based on a Christmas song. You'll figure out right away which one it is, but it's a lot of fun. Once upon a time, there was a farmer's daughter named Emma who went barefoot in the summer, talked to the pigs, and liked to sit in the branches of the old cherry tree all year round. She did wear boots in the winter. On the first day of Christmas, the young local prince saw her tree. There and then he knew that she, and only she, was his one true love. The prince asked the farmer for Emma's hand in marriage. The farmer asked Emma how she felt about such an honor. Emma wasn't all that thrilled. The prince had a funny smile, and he was, to be sure, a prince, but she couldn't imagine herself living in a castle. No, she said, but thank you, Prince. However, the prince would not take no for an answer. Instead, that very day, he sent her by royal messenger a partridge in a pear tree. Emma was pleasantly surprised. On the second day of Christmas, 2 messengers came bearing a cage with 2 turtle doves and another partridge in another pear tree. Emma was charmed. On the morning of the 3rd day of Christmas, 3 men trudged through the snow with 3 French hens, 2 more turtle doves, and another partridge in another pear tree. "He's overdoing it," said Emma's mother. On the 4th day of Christmas, more messengers brought 4 calling birds who called out, "Emma, Emma, Emma, Emma!" 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and another pear tree with yet another partridge. "We'd better build a birdhouse," said Emma's father. Her mother made 10 quarts of pear jam. On the 5th day of Christmas, Emma received 4 more calling birds, 3 more French hens, 2 more turtle doves, another partridge in a pear tree, and for a change, 5 golden rings. At dawn on the 6th day of Christmas, Emma was still in bed when she heard 6 knocks on the cottage door. She peeked out the window and saw 6 swans swimming in a silver pond. All the other birds were stacked up by the chimney, and 5 more golden rings were tied to the door handle. Knock, 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 knock. It was the 7th day of Christmas. When she opened the door, Emma saw 7 geese a-laying. 6 more swans a-swimming, 5 golden rings, 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and another partridge in yet another pear tree. That makes 69 birds, and they're all laying eggs, she groaned. On the 8th day of Christmas, there was something new. 8 milking maids, each with her own pail, milking stool, and cow. Behind them were 7 more geese, 6 more swimming swans, 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, and 2 turtle doves. 4 more golden rings were hanging in the pear tree. A partridge was chewing on the 5th ring. Worn out, Emma dreamed she heard music, but it was no dream. It was the morning of the 9th day of Christmas, and what she heard were 9 pipers piping a tune that was so lovely she could almost ignore the 8 new milkmaids and their cows, the 7 new geese, the 6 new swans, the 5 new golden rings, the 4 new calling birds, the 3 new French hens, the 2 new turtle doves, and way off in the distance, the partridge in the pear tree. But not quite. On the 10th day of Christmas, the cottage door flew open, and 10 drummers drummed their way inside to the 9 pipers piping. The 8 milkmaids tumbled after with all the cows, geese, swans, golden rings, calling birds, French hens, turtle doves, and of course, a partridge in another pear tree. The farmer's wife packed some eggs and 100 jars of pear jam and left home to visit the farmer's ancient parents who lived far away on the other side of the kingdom. Emma stayed home to watch over the farm. That night, she made 52 pear omelets for all the drummers, pipers, and maids. The cows 24 bales of hay. The birds did very well on chopped pears and cottage cheese. On the 11th day of Christmas, 11 ladies danced in with 10 more drummers, 9 more pipers, 8 more milking maids, and all the usual birds. Emma made 90 omelets, squeezed 10 gallons of pear juice, and fed everybody. Then she threw the 35 rings at the 32 calling birds who were driving her crazy, screeching, "Emma, Emma, Emma, Emma!" On the 12th day of Christmas, a very weary Emma climbed up to the hayloft for some sleep. But over the snowy hills, she saw 12 leaping lords, 11 dancing ladies, 10 drumming drummers, 9 pipers piping, 8 milkmaids with cows, 7 laying geese, 6 swans swimming, 5 pages bearing 5 golden rings, 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and just behind the pear tree and its partridge, the prince himself, smiling his funny smile. In spite of herself, Emma was enchanted. The prince ran into the house and up the ladder. "Emma, my own true love," he cried. "Now will you be my princess and live with me in the castle?" "Prince dear, yes and no," Emma replied. "I've been thinking. Most of the castle's people must be here by now. If they stayed and you stayed, well, then we could be married. Would you like to be my farmer prince?" "I'd love it," he said. And so it was that Emma and the prince, in the company of 12 lords, 22 ladies, 30 drummers, 36 pipers, 40 milking maids and their cows, 42 geese, 42 swans, 36 calling birds, 30 French hens, 22 turtle doves, 12 partridges, and Emma's father and mother exchanged 40 golden rings and were very happily married. The pear trees grew into an orchard, and the cows into a dairy herd, and the 184 birds laid thousands and thousands of eggs, most of which hatched. And that's the story of Emma's Christmas. I hope you enjoyed it.
Will you join me now in a prayer? Great light, Holy One, that's around us and in us, open us today to your guidance. we return to this sacred space to quiet our minds and to focus on your light. You have called us to act on your behalf in this world. Therefore, kindle in us the power of your love. We pray that you will guide each of us to be a bright, small spark of your eternal light. We pray that you will guide us to be examples of the forgiveness and understanding that is needed in our world. We ask that you comfort those in need this day. We ask that you surround with your love Todd Lewis, who is going to be one of our storytellers today, who has a breakthrough COVID. And please surround all our travelers this week, that they may remain safe. May we open our hearts and lives to you. Amen.
Good morning. This poem is called Some Children See Him. The children in each different place will see the baby Jesus' face like theirs, but bright with heavenly grace and filled with holy light. Oh, lay aside each earthly thing, and with thy heart as offering, come worship now the infant King. 'Tis love that's born tonight.
Good morning. I'll be reading Luke 2, verses 8 through 16, actually. In that region, there were shepherds living in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. Then an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid, for see, I am bringing you good news of great joy for all the people. To you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign for you. You will find a child wrapped in bands of cloth and lying in a manger." And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly hosts, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace among those whom he favors." When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go now to Bethlehem and see this thing that has taken place, which the Lord hath made known to us." So they went with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the child lying in the manger.
Hi again. Lois couldn't come today, so I'm going to tell Lois's story. My, meaning Lois's, earliest Christmas memory is not a very pleasant one. It was the first time I was in a Christmas program at church, and my first year in Sunday school. Now, my parents at that time belonged to the Wampum Christmas Reformed Church in Wisconsin, where church was always very serious. People did not laugh in church. The minister never told jokes in his sermons. The only time that it was acceptable to laugh in church was on the night of Christmas Day, when the Sunday school children gave a Christmas program. If they did something amusing, people could laugh, and people loved that. I must have been 3 or 4 years old. For that Christmas program, I was assigned a short rhymed piece to recite. My mother taught me the words, and I knew them cold perfectly. She had sewed a new dress for me, and I'm sure she curled my hair in ringlets, because she always did that on special occasions. She tried to think of everything. She sent me off to the Sunday school supervisors with a handkerchief, just in case I had a sniffle. I sat in the front rows with the other children. When my name was called, I walked up to the dais all by myself, and it was then that I became aware of the handkerchief in my hand. For some reason, it seemed to my 3 or 4-year-old mind that I couldn't speak my piece with a handkerchief in my hand. But my dress didn't have any pockets. I knew I wasn't supposed to return to my seat to leave it. So I did what seemed to my 3 or 4-year-old mind the only thing I could do. I laid the handkerchief on the floor in front of me. Everybody laughed. They roared, hundreds of them. Of course, I forgot what I was supposed to say and had to be prompted. Then some of the words came back, but I had to be prompted at least once more. I'm sure it looked funny, but I knew that people had laughed at me. It was not an auspicious beginning to public speaking. When I grew up, I became a teacher. I taught for 34 years. I was usually comfortable in front of a class. Still, something about getting up on the dais at church made me quivery all over again. But I'm glad that it's often appropriate to laugh in services at UCG, just not at someone. Thank you, Lois.
Morning. 11 years ago, my family and I went to visit my friend Alvaro and his family in Colombia, South America. I was excited to see Alvaro and his wife renew their wedding vows in the Catholic Church, and also to see how they celebrate the holiday season. On Christmas Eve, we took a walk around Chía near Bogota. We came home and I cooked some stuffing with local ingredients, bread, onion, and something resembling celery, ready for an 8 p.m. sit down. It sat getting cold and uneaten. I kept hearing updates that we were going to eat soon. This actually was a bold-faced lie. We sat down to dinner at the stroke of 12. Never have I been to a party that started at midnight. Actually, I don't do midnight awake, except when I eat too much chocolate. We ate a filet mignon that had been prepared by wrapping it in salt and cloth and then thrown into the fireplace. I was dubious, but it actually tasted very good. After dinner, I handed out gifts to dismayed guests who had no idea why they were getting a gift, and there were no other gifts other than mine. Then I cried because I lost my mother that year, and they let me excuse myself to bed at 1 a.m. Everyone slept in the next morning, a guest on every sofa and bed. By daylight Christmas morning, all festivities had ceased. But I was ready to enjoy the rest of the vacation because I was ready for an adventure, and while Christmas was a disappointment, at least it was over. One adventure we had was riding on the sideboards in the back of a large open-air truck to a mountainous rainforest. We stopped at a pharmacy for what looked like a box of water, which I thought was very responsible, and instead it turned out to be a box of aguardiente, which translates into English as schnapps, or literally tooth water, but it's really water of the devil. We all took a shot, including my 14-year-old boy, in little cough syrup cups. I guess we needed to brace ourselves. We stood near a church as it was letting out, and the congregation watched us get on horses. No helmets, no waivers, no water bottles, no walking. We trotted up the mountain on a dirt road past a few huts and inhabitants. It was a little bit dangerous. I found this out when our guide and his horse suddenly toppled backwards into a ditch. Luckily, the two of them came up unharmed, but I imagine they were probably shaken and a little embarrassed. After about 3 hours of trotting, I was a wreck and I had had enough. I begged to be done. My friend Alvaro said we weren't near our starting point. I said I would walk back. Because I didn't speak Spanish, all plans were developed without me knowing anything about them. It was all find out in real time. We all got off our horses and someone trotted all of them away. The troop of us, teens and adults, entered a little jungle bar. I was starving. We had the choice of beer, hot chocolate, and potato chips. After a while, I began wondering if we were going to get back on the horses and go back down after our snack drink break. Nope, turns out we were waiting for our truck driver to come and pick us up. Even later, I asked where our driver was. As it turns out, we were waiting for him to sober up before he came for us. Oh, okay, good idea. I'll wait patiently. In an open-air covered patio, we started playing a game called Tejo. The game is somewhat like horseshoes, throwing a heavy piece of metal across the yard, except it's a hockey puck-shaped slug thrown underhand into a bin of clay propped up diagonally on the other side of the room. The square of wet clay, about this big, had a metal triangle in it. It looked like the kind of triangle on the back of a bicycle vest, but made of metal. Placed on the triangle are little packets of gunpowder in paper which stick to the metal triangle. So if you're lucky enough to hit the triangle with a metal puck, a gunshot explosion rings through the forest. The beers flowed and the shots fired. I got tired of this game and started nipping a little bit of clay from the bin. It was Christmas, so I made a little baby Jesus the size of a walnut. I had fun sculpting the clay, and I was in my comfort zone, stranded in a rainforest in South America with drunk relatives and friends playing and yelling every time a shot rang out. I gathered up my small sculptures when our ride showed up, and after a treacherous and muddy trip down the side of the mountain, we arrived at our campesina. I showed the owner of house my sculptures, and she squealed with joy as she took the baby Jesus from my hand and placed it in her empty manger in her nativity scene under her tree. I was moved at the serendipity of this. How was it that I had thought to make a baby Jesus who found the perfect home? I was at the right time, in the right place, using my skill for the most high purpose. Later, when I recounted this miracle to my friend Alvaro, he chuckled and told me there are no baby Jesuses in any creches in any Colombian homes. I was surprised. I couldn't think how Jesus could be ubiquitously lost. It is especially sad because there is no jolly Santa in Colombia providing good cheer, decorations, or gifts. The Nativity is the centerpiece of Christmas. It seems all the baby Jesuses have been taken by the children who understand how precious Jesus is, and it seems each kid needs his or her own Jesus. I actually wanted to take a nativity set home, and I started shopping around for one. There were no Jesuses in any sets at any of the small shops in the city. I asked the sales girl, "Where are the babies?" And she said, "Oh, we keep them all locked up in a case." Wow, those Jesuses are so coveted, so needed, so wanted, valued, and loved. They cannot sit out on the shelf with the rest of the figurines. Jesus is so precious, he must remain under lock and key until his whole group is claimed at the counter. On that trip, I gained a new attraction for the nativity scene, and I am still looking for the perfect set. Jesus and the nativity is not at all like our big, jolly, bearded man Santa, but instead he is a small, sacred seed that lies nested in his bed, surrounded by his family and a myriad of animals, finally arrived to discover life as a human baby and begin life in this world. Amen.
If I danced, I would have danced up here, but. Todd Lewis got in touch yesterday to, as you heard, I think, in the prayer time, Todd was to be telling a story now, and he developed a breakthrough case of COVID. And so here I am. And I don't know where my notes just went, but they're not here. So, a story. When I was 7 years old, I think I had learned pretty well that if you asked for something at Christmas time, there was a pretty good chance you got it. Over the years, I had asked for a variety of things, and every single one of them on Christmas morning had been there available to me, either from Santa Claus or from my parents. A few years ago, my mom stumbled across some old movies, and she had them turned into a DVD. This is how you make a pacifist conscientious objector. You give him weapons every year for Christmas. Every single Christmas, I got a sword, a gun, boxing gloves, something that was a weapon. But I always got what I wanted. Well, when I was 7 years old, I wanted something different. I didn't want a weapon. I didn't want any of the typical things that one might ask for. Well, many might have asked for, but I hadn't yet. I wanted a 26-inch red Schwinn Tornado. It's spelled tornado, but it's pronounced tornado. I wanted that red Schwinn Tornado with the 26-inch wheels, which was kind of high for a little kid, but I was already a little bit tall, and I knew I was going to grow, and I wanted to have it for a long time because it was the coolest looking bicycle I had ever seen. So I thought, well, I need to ask for this, but I thought there was going to be one small exception to the rule of getting what you asked for. You see, I didn't know how to ride a bicycle yet. And I was pretty sure my mom and dad would not go along with giving me a 26-inch wheel red Schwinn Tornado, even if I asked for it for Christmas. But I had a plan. There was somebody else I could ask for things. And so at every store, at every school Christmas party, at every church Christmas party, I would find Santa Claus and I would sit in his lap and tell him my whole list. A 26-inch wheel red Schwinn Tornado. That was my whole list. Every Santa knew it. Everybody was ready. It was going to be wonderful Christmas morning. Even my parents were going to be surprised. Well, we went through all of our regular traditions on Christmas Eve. We went to church, then we went to my grandparents' house. We shared our meal. We opened those family presents. My grandparents used to give a lot of underwear and socks. But we did all the things we love to do. And then we went home, and I could barely sleep. I was so excited it hurt. But I knew the next morning I was going to see all kinds of wonderful gifts, but there was going to be that one thing. So the next morning, I woke up bright and early, got up. We had in our living room a Christmas tree with lights, and in the fireplace was a lit up Santa Claus. Those two things provided just enough room to see. And so I slipped into the living room and I looked around and I saw a variety of gifts, things I'd mentioned to my parents, but I didn't see the thing I wanted most. I went back and lay in the bed till my sister woke up, and then we both woke our parents up and we went down the hall and we had an orgy of opening gifts. There was paper everywhere. There were all sorts of wonderful things. And the things I got almost made up for the fact that there was no bicycle in the living room. We had Christmas dinner at my grandparents' house. All of my relatives on both sides of the family who were in town were gathered there. It was a wonderful day, and I just decided, okay, it just was not going to happen this year, but I would keep my fingers crossed for the next. that night I went to bed and my dad kissed me goodnight, told me a quick story, and then he said, "How did you feel about Christmas this year?" And I said, "Dad, it was wonderful. I got all kinds of things." And then he looked at me and said, "Yeah, but you look a little disappointed." And I broke down and told him the truth. I said, "Daddy, I really wanted a red Schwinn Tornado with 26-inch wheels." And Dad said, "I know." He said, "On the day you learn to ride a bike, we'll go get yours. It's already waiting at Greeley's bicycle shop. But some things are just too important to let Santa do. Some things family need to do together." That April, I was riding my next door neighbor's bike down the street without any help for the first time. My dad grinned. "Let's go to Greeley's bike shop, son." And I got my red Schwinn Tornado with 26-inch wheels on the right day.
When I joined UCG, I was introduced to the Advent tradition. I'm a sucker for a good metaphor, and I connected with all the symbolism in the tradition. The circular wreath representing unending love, the ritual lighting of the candles representing this intentional, thoughtful preparation for the season of Christmas. The candles representing faith and hope and love and joy and peace and light, how families light the candles together, the overall symbolism of newness and hope represented in the story of a baby boy's birth. The word Advent itself derived from the Latin adventus, meaning arrival or coming. For a number of years, I watched as a single woman as the families of UCG celebrated this tradition. But 2014 was different. In late October, I'd finally completed a textbook-size stack of papers, my adoption application. I was 30 years old, divorced 5 years prior. I had more than my fair share of bad online dating experiences, and I'd come to the realization that I wasn't really sure I wanted to be a wife, but I was 100% sure I wanted to be a mom. I embarked on a journey that seemed frankly ludicrous to many people. I was going to adopt a child from foster care as a single parent. I think even my own family didn't understand my desire to put the proverbial cart before the horse. But I've heard it said that God laughs when you make plans. And in November 2014, I met my horse, who generally prefers to go by Brandon. I didn't plan on meeting my future husband. The timing was kind of inconvenient. It certainly didn't make sense to try to start two versions of a family at the same time. Me adopting while also dating Brandon, who already had a daughter. Brandon and I dated, and I put my adoption plans on hold temporarily. Fast forward to December 2015, another season of waiting and hopeful anticipation, this time for a proposal. Brandon did propose on Christmas Eve, and we were married in March 2016. And in August 2016, we started the adoption process again, together. And for anyone keeping track, yes, this all happened very quickly. In early November 2016, a little face appeared in my inbox. An email from South Florida. He just turned 4. He has some special needs. Other families have already said no, they weren't sure they could handle his G-tube and his medical care. We saw that you're an occupational therapist. What do you think? 2 days later, we met in a conference room at UF on my husband's lunch break to speak with his foster mom, caseworker, and a medical caseworker. I still wasn't sure how to pronounce his name. Was it a hard J or a soft J? Everyone pronounced it differently on the call. I'd figure it out eventually, I decided. 3 days later, we drove to Miami, the first of many trips. It was Veterans Day weekend. The tiniest, funniest, silliest little boy met us at the door. He fluffed up Brandon's hair and pronounced, "Now you look like Donald Trump." And he looked at me and pronounced, "And you look like Hillary Clinton." It was election season then, after all. The combination of his little boy voice, juxtaposed with those statements, cracked us up. And it would not be the last time he'd surprise us with his deep level of perception, quick wit, and spontaneity. The caseworker called to say he'll be home by Christmas. Talk about a time for intentional preparation. We were awaiting the arrival of our baby boy and wanted a more welcoming environment than a proverbial manger. Green paint or blue paint, superheroes or Star Wars stickers. Would he like a train bedspread or one with trucks or a solid color? Should we just wait and let him pick? We have a house full of dolls and My Little Ponies and no clothes for a little boy. My sister-in-law threw us a wonderful shower, and our family and friends provided. My magi, arriving with all the gifts a 4-year-old boy could ever need, with a noted absence of frankincense and myrrh. More trips to Miami, long, arduous journeys from Gainesville to our symbolic Bethlehem. The Doral Element Hotel was our second home. Our daughter met him a week later, and then our first overnight visit with Johan at the hotel. I set off the fire alarm trying to cook a stir fry for a family dinner for a little boy who literally ate nothing by mouth then. I wondered what other irrational things Mary might have packed for her journey. There were 2 little voices waking me up in the morning. "Mommy?" Mid-December, the caseworker called. The therapist was worried it was too soon. The medical team thought we needed more training. He wouldn't be home for Christmas after all. They weren't actually sure when he'd come to live with us. This was not the plan. I sobbed in his tiny toddler bed that night. There's a certain way my baby was supposed to come home, and this wasn't it. Advent and all its symbolism brought more hope than I could have imagined that year. Yearning for the arrival of a baby boy, the start of something new and fresh for all of us. An unending love for a little boy that had yet to sleep under my roof. Joy, peace, hope, faith, and so much love for the little light trying to make his way home to us. It would ultimately take an attorney, more money than we expected, and so many more journeys to Miami before he would finally come home in March 2017. The 5 months from when we met him to when he came home felt like an eternity. I'm not sure I really took a deep breath until our final journey to Miami in July 2017, when we finalized his adoption. None of it happened how we expected, but it was done. The promise was finally fulfilled. The Christmas story never felt more real. And not just the waiting for a baby boy part, all of it. I can't imagine many mothers plan on a long, tiresome journey as they await their children. I'd guess most mothers hope their children's arrival into their lives happens smoothly in the best, warmest, safest environments. I'd assume most mothers don't plan on having to go to battle for their child's well-being, running to Egypt to save their children's lives. But I know most mothers would think nothing of that sacrifice. That Advent season of 2016 will always crackle with an extra bit of emotion. He didn't arrive according to my timeline or my plans. How often is that even true for the best things in life, I suppose? But he arrived, and he is my greatest gift.
There's something really sacred about taking time every week, whether here at UCG or at home, and being able to just sit and listen to songs and sermons and scriptures and stories. So before I offer the benediction, I'd like to thank our Board of Parish Ministry for their incredible work sculpting this service for us to hear these stories today. And to our story authors and our storytellers, and to Philip for leading our music through the Advent season and today. Thank you. So I invite you to please stand and join me and to receive this benediction, which was written by Jan Richardson. And so we take the ragged fragments, the patches of darkness that give shape to the light, the scraps of desire, unslaked or realized, the memories of spaces, of blessings, of pain. And so we gather the scattered pieces, the hopes we carry, fractured or whole, the struggles of birthing, exhausting, elated, the places of welcome that bring healing and life. And so we lay them at the threshold, God, bid you hold them, bless them, use them, ask you tend them, make them, transform them, to keep us warm, make us whole, and send us forth. Blessings to you this week for the new year.